So the questions are, what is the impact of lockdown on economy and employment? Is the government response sufficient? What more is needed? What are the measures needed for increase in demand? You need more food and cash transfers and help for MSMEs. And what are the social security measures needed? So this panel covers, various topics, economy, economic recession, to social security. This is an excellent panel. The panelists are well known in this, experts and in this subject.
We are not starting with a new problem with this coronavirus shock. We were actually already in what is called hysteresis or sustained decline in growth because of two earlier shocks, namely the demonetization shock, which hit us in November 2016, followed by a very badly messed up GST rollout, though in principle that's a good tax, but it's badly implemented very badly. And then you got another major shock in July 2017. Scenario one is one that I have already referred to earlier, that we end up with zero growth at the end of the year. So the supply response leads you up to where you were at the end of the last year. That would give us an inflation rate of these are all consistency stories of this much growth and what is inflation, what is fiscal deficit, and so on. A fiscal deficit of 7.8%, inflation 6%, zero growth, and a current account deficit of 2.6%. Mind you, since the fiscal policy and monetary policy has already been specified and we have built it in the model simulations, much of the impact is being picked up actually on the inflation side and the current account deficit. Scenario 2 is if supply response is more constrained and you end up with a -2% GDP growth for the whole year. In that case, the inflation would be slightly higher, the fiscal deficit not very much different, and the current account deficit about 2.3%. As you know, we think that over a 2% current account deficit puts us into strain on the balance of payments and foreign exchange and so on. Scenario 3 is a more severe scenario, which looks at a -5% GDP drop. Inflation goes up somewhat higher there, so does the fiscal deficit, and the current account deficit in this case is because it's reduced to 1.8%. Because there's a large drop in GDP, so our demand for imports will be constrained to that extent. And our worst case scenario is a -10% GDP. If you recall, I had started with our 12.5% decline in the absence of any stimulus, but we know there's been a stimulus. So the worst case scenario we're looking at is a supply response that constrains your growth, or rather your negative growth, to just -10%.
Now, on the demand side of the picture, as a result of the lockdown, what's happened, and that's clear already, there have been large income losses, but also income inequality has increased, probably quite a great deal. So both actually have an effect of sort of demand compression. So the demand is a serious problem. Now, this might be overcome if all production sectors could start producing simultaneously. There would be some kind of a mutual demand creation, because jobs would grow and demand would grow. So the demand side problem could be solved to an extent if there was simultaneous revival of all economic activities that suffered shutdown.
Consumer Pyramids Household Survey that we have been conducting. The Consumer Pyramids Household Survey is designed to produce fast frequency data on the well-being of households. 122 million jobs lost. In April, 91 million were of small traders, wage laborers, those kinds of people who work as small traders and wage laborers. The biggest hit was in this category. All the younger population are the ones where the share in fall is larger. And on the right-hand side, you will see the share in fall is correspondingly lower. So this is just a elementary indication that the fall in employment that happened in April was essentially or almost entirely amongst people who are younger than 40 years of age. So this is quite stark. So the share of women, the first bar, red bar, is lower than the share in the fall. The share in the fall for women is higher than their share in employment. So women have suffered a disproportionate share in the fall in employment. People who were less educated were the ones that got hit. So the share of people with only primary education, less than 6th grade education, had a lower proportion in employment than their share in the fall.
The constitutional mandate of the right to life that we have under our constitution, which includes the right to livelihood, which includes the right to social security, must be read together with the directive principles of state policy, and it is this that must become the foundation of certain positions from which the Indian government cannot abdicate, cannot derogate from, and cannot resile from. And these must be used to create avenues for livelihood, social security, and public assistance. There is a duty upon the state not to discriminate directly or indirectly. This has great salience, particularly when dealing with internal migrants. With the discourse on nationalism and sons of the soil, the ability to access health facilities, the ability to access welfare benefits, oftentimes get linked to your rights as a resident in that particular state. And the argument being that these are state resources that are deployed, and why should these be made available to somebody who is an internal migrant? We need to look at the international investment law, the model contract farming law, and specifically make all the relief package contingent on fulfillment of labor laws and their enforcement.
The revisit of the recommendations of the NCEUS, National Commission for Enterprises in the Unorganized Sector, in order, if only to underline the fact that there was a blueprint of a larger notion of social security for India's, what we may now say, insecure workers. First and foremost is the idea of identification and the availability of a list or a register of informal workers. The NCEUS recommendation provided for registration of all informal workers with the help of workers' facilitation centers. These registered workers were to come under the state level, where there will be a social security and welfare board or boards for the different states, charged with implementing a national social security scheme. Social security package designed consisted of 3 pillars, if I may say so. The first, a statutory national minimum wage. The second pillar was a social security package for meeting sickness, accident or death insurance, and an old age pension in the case of workers belonging to poorer families, that is as a national pension, or a provident fund for other workers who could make a contribution to such a separate provident fund that was also proposed. The third was the enactment of a law governing minimum conditions of work.
As you know, even in the pre-COVID period, Indian economy was slowing down. Labor force participation rates declined, particularly for women, and unemployment increased. So the lockdown of 10 weeks had a severe adverse impact on the economy, which was already slowing down, and devastating impact on labor and employment. So this pandemic has, created the impact on economy and employment and hopefully there are some green shoots, as Mahesh said. In June, there is some decline in unemployment, and also some other countries, also US and all, some recovery one can see with the unlocking. As somebody said, even Deepak Nair also mentioned that unlocking is very important. That itself acts as a stimulus for the economy and employment.